You can learn how to do a lot of things, and you can learn it the easy way, or you can learn how to do it the hard way. And when it comes to endurance fueling, I feel like many people, age group, noob to the sport, or pros, choose to do it the hard way. And I'm not sure it's intentional or if they've just been potentially given bad advice. This is what a fueling plan looks like, and this is how I'd like you to think about it. A fueling plan is not meant to provide this structure and rigidity that's every minute, every 10 minutes, you better set your alarm, this is what you need to do every minute of your training or your event. What it's meant to do is provide you some structure, and if this then that type decision-making mentality during training, so when you get to an event, you're able to make good decisions and have the maximum amount of flexibility. Now, how does a training plan give you the maximum amount of flexibility? It's because you know what your body is telling you. You can listen to the feedback when we work through hydration goals, carbohydrate per hour goals, and start working on a range of products that you can put into a rotation. So what allows this fueling plan to give an athlete lots of flexibility, whether they're a seasoned pro, a world champion, or someone just getting started, is that their body has to tell them what it can and cannot tolerate. And the body's GI system can be trained to tolerate more. The same way you train your body for all of your sports, we can train your stomach to respond and or tell you how you should respond to what you're taking in. The same way when you're running or you're cycling and you know that you're burning matches because you've had to hit too many bursts, you're hitting too high in FTP, you're going harder than you should. You know you can't sustain that. Well, your body, if you train it in training, will tell you, I can't drink this much fluid, I can't eat this food, I can't do this mixture. And if you don't train on it enough during your training sessions, the only time you can find out about that is during the event. And here's the problem with that, is that during an event, your body is taking all of its blood flow to the working muscles. It's not going to the stomach and the intestines to digest and absorb and distribute that food. So you're actually taxing your GI system a lot by not training it during training. So when you show up to a race, having not tested your fueling rotation, having not built up your fluid tolerance, not having an idea of how many grams of carbohydrate you can take, and what types of food you will tolerate well, it is essentially the equivalent of, I'm gonna do an Ironman, but I have ridden my bike 3 times. You show up to the day of the race expecting your body to be able to handle 100 miles. It's not going to happen. No one would do that, but they would do the nutritional equivalent by not testing and not practicing their GI system. Now, how do you do this? What you're looking at here is the number 1 step is to figure out what should I be doing fluid per hour. Now that can be done via sweat volume test. It doesn't have to be anything fantastically expensive or even high tech, just figuring out how much sweat volume you lose in a certain duration. Now we do some basis off that to say if this is what I can take in per hour of fluid. Now I start to build how much calories and what types of products we build into that fluid rotation. 60 to 90 minutes, that's kind of the sweet spot of where you really need to start looking at fueling for BT or breakthrough workouts. 60 minutes or less, hey, you know what, it's mostly preference. You probably should have eaten before, but if you don't have these strategies and no one's explained it to you, you don't know what to do. At 2 to 3 hours, we start to get where the fueling plan really begins to shine, because now you're testing fluid per hour. Now you're consistent. Now you can't get behind, because one of the last things as an athlete that you want to do is actually try to catch up on lots of liquid and food when you've gotten behind because it was too hot or you weren't capable of taking it in because you didn't train your GI system to tolerate certain amounts of liquid every hour. Now, when we try to overwhelm our GI system by catching up, like, oh man, I missed my fluid this last hour, and I try to drink a whole bunch, that actually slows down your gastric emptying rate. the rate at which stuff will move through your stomach into your intestine, meaning it's just going to sit there. Now it gets sloshy and it doesn't go anywhere. Now we feel nauseous. Now we don't drink or eat anymore. Now we're really far behind, and the snowball just starts rolling. And at the end, you probably aren't going to end this event. And if you did, it was a miracle, and it was probably a super shitty experience. So why would we do that to ourselves when we can actually practice and train our GI system the entire season up to these major events? At 2 to 3 hours, we really should be practicing a rotation. As you'll see here, we have fueling types. These were the 4 or 5 fueling types that I worked with this athlete to implement. And a layering process, that's something maybe not unique to me, but it's something that I definitely push on all my athletes, is we're not putting all of our eggs in one basket. We're not using one particular product. I don't care who you're sponsored by. It's probably not a good thing. Let's be flexible. Now, with flexibility comes understanding what these products are doing for you. Every product has a grams per carbohydrate, right? If you take a look at Shot Blocks, UCAN, Scratch, Noon, insert product here, it will say it has 20 grams of carbohydrate. It has 27, it has 30. Now, when we're looking to fuel an individual, they have a tolerance. Now, we try to push that tolerance of how much they can eat or take in per hour to the highest, because we know those individuals are eating the most amount of food are the ones that are having the best races when they can tolerate it. It's just what the research shows us. Now, if I can help an athlete build their GI tolerance to taking consistent fluid and a maximum amount of carbohydrate for them, they're going to be consistent through the whole race. Now, this is where the flexibility piece comes in, because let's say the bento box explodes, you dump all of your stuff out of it, and now you don't have the one item you've been training on. We'll just use Shot Blocks because I love those, and they're stuffed inside my bento, and they just shot out. Now, I have no Shot Blocks, and if you know it at any Ironman, that they do not have Shot Blocks, right? Sponsored, it's not what's there, and now in your mind you're spiraling because, oh my god, I don't have what I've been training on, this is going to suck, what am I going to do? Well, if you work with the fueling plan and you work with a fueling specialist like a sports dietitian who does endurance sports like myself, you would have had a rotation of products you would have tested, and you would know how many grams of carbohydrate you're shooting for per hour. That way, no matter where you are and what event you're doing and what's at these aid stations, you can grab something that's equivalent. Not only that, but as we put this fueling plan together, we're teaching the rules of what can and cannot be mixed together, how often you need to chase with plain water, so that now you have the maximum amount of flexibility, not rigidity. Now, the idea behind a fueling plan and a hydration plan is that it's like, I gotta set my watch and no. Maybe in the beginning, when it's not something you're used to doing, sure, but that's just like anything new where you had to have some structure before you could get creative. It's the same with this fueling plan. Now, if you treat a fueling plan as like, if I mess it up and I don't take this every 10 minutes, you're doing it wrong. Like, that's going to create more stress. We absolutely have to go into an event with the idea that the worst case scenario is going to happen. Right? And that's where, when I'm teaching my athletes on how much fluid to take, how much plain water to take, how many grams of carbohydrates to go, what I'm mixing and what I'm not mixing, they could actually start the race with not a damn thing on them and go through their aid stations making good choices, because now they're educated athletes about how to eat on the run, on the bike, on an event for hours on end using good principles. That right there is the epitome of flexibility. So don't think that a fueling plan like this is wrong because you read it somewhere that pros don't do it. I hate to tell you this, but places like Team Sky, they're the one that put fueling plans on the map. They have taken science and said, we're doing this by this much and by the hour. Now, some flexibility, the athlete says, I can or cannot take this, but you know what? They've got a general guideline. And more importantly, it's not just the event that matters. A fueling plan and a fueling matrix not only trains your GI at the same time you're training your body, but it's allowing you to be better fueled and hydrated for the actual training that is building and increasing your performance. Why pay a coach all this money to give you a great high-powered training plan when your nutrition isn't allowing you to even hit those paces or do the work without getting super fatigued. You're kind of wasting your money, but then again, you're also out there putting blood, sweat, tears, and effort into this, and if you're not getting the most out of it, why would you do that? So fueling is like that third leg of a three-legged stool. One of those legs gets chopped out, you're gonna come crashing down. It's nutrition, training, and it's mental performance. Those three things are the three legs of that stool, and if you're not paying attention and you're not building them up, you're gonna be in a game-ending situation, or event-ending in this situation, because your GI, you're literally going to shit yourself and you're not going to be able to complete. Now I say that seriously and also in jest, but that's really ultimately what happens when we don't fuel properly, we mix the wrong products, or more importantly, we've tried to go out and ride 100 miles when we've only ridden our bike once. It doesn't make any sense to do it on a sport. Why would you do it with your nutrition? That's fueling your sport. It can end your event if you don't get it right. So start early and start often. Don't put this off to 3 months. Get phone calls all the time. Hey Andrew, I got an Ironman in 3 months. Okay, we probably should have started like 18 months ago. They'll be better off in 3 months, but what could they have done with their GI system to train it in 6, 8, 12 months? A lot. The same way they put that time into training your body to complete the event.